My name is Darren Joseph from HTJ.tax. We're the team that seeks to demystify the sometimes confusing world of cross-border taxation for private clients. And today we have the honor and the privilege of having a conversation with the one, the only Leonardo Marques dos Santos. Leonardo, please, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much for having me, Darren. I'm a tax lawyer based in Portugal, partner of Miranda & Associates, also tax law and international tax law professor here at Portuguese Catholic University. That's it.
Wonderful. What's going on with NHR? Can you help us understand?
Only good things. Yeah, so what happened was approximately 1 or 2 weeks before the budget proposal, the Prime Minister gave an interview to CNN, and he just said that he was going to end the NHR program, and he seemed to have delivered to some extent with that promise. So the budget was presented to Parliament in the October 10th. According to the current wording of the proposal, there is it's not a full stop to the program, but it's pretty much an end as we know it. I say it's not a full stop because the program may still apply with a very, very narrow scope. For instance, professors, researchers may still benefit to an extent of the program. But to the best of our knowledge, so according to the wording of the proposal, the program as we know it will end in December 31st. So what we know, what it results clear from the wording of the proposal is that whomever changes tax residency until the end of the year will still be eligible for the regime, and the regime will apply until the end of the 10 years. If the residency is not changed, or at least if you're not eligible according to the residency criteria, you may not make it. So there is a grandfathering clause that will allow the application of the regime for a period of 10 years, but it's after, we don't know. I just want to stress that we don't know because of one thing. The government has the majority in the parliament. So if the government wants to approve the proposal as it is, it will. So it's the end. But I've been listening to a lot of chatter and a lot of talks and by consultants, by politicians, by CEOs of big companies. So not all people is related to tax, or not all people may have an interest in the continuation of the regime from a business standpoint. But a lot of people are saying, well, first of all, the regime is not to blame for the housing problem in Portugal. Maybe I should have started with that. The end of the program, according to the Prime Minister, is based on their opinion that the NHR is responsible for the current housing problem that we have. Housing problem is, in my opinion, mostly in big city centers, not in not entire country. So a lot of people saying, well, first of all, this is not true. It's a matter of opinion. I'm not going to question that. But a lot of people are saying, well, there's a huge problem with the end of the program, which is to attract talents. Our personal income tax rate is one of the highest in Europe. So we will not be able to attract talent to Portugal, individuals and investments to Portugal by using the standard regime. So even people and former state secretaries state secretaries of tax affairs that do not have a particular sympathy for the program say, well, this may be necessary. And because all of these voices seem to be defending the program, I still have hopes, but I cannot guarantee anything or anything like that. But at least I have hopes that there will be some changes in Parliament, because that can still exist. This is just a proposal that will be discussed and approved by the Parliament. So who knows? Maybe we will still have some form of NHR. In my opinion, I mean, there is a matter of opinion on the benefits of the regime. But one thing for me seems clear. That is, you should not put an end to a program that was in force for more than 10 years, that was for all intents and purposes, stable. Why was it stable? Because it survived several different governments from different political parties, but also because even this year there was a proposal to end the program that was rejected by the party, which is by the government party. So it seemed like something that would be stable. So you should not put an end to a program like this from October to December. So if indeed the program is going to end, there should be at least a transitional period of maybe 1 year. So a lot of people that have made their planning that the NHR, for those that are not familiar with the regime, entails a change of tax residency to Portugal. This is not artificial. People will have to buy a house, rent a house, and move to Portugal. So there are personal issues like They want to bring their kids, but their kids cannot leave school in the middle of a school year. There are issues with visas that are taking some time. There are people that I know people that sold their main houses and were about to start the search in Portugal. So there are like a lot of personal decisions and a lot of personal aspects of the regime that won't that are not compatible with the change within 2 months or 3 months. So it should be at least postponed until the end of 2024. But this is all we know. Other than that, it's just mere speculation.
Okay, gotcha. But as is where we are right now, so everyone who's listening to this in the future, so this is October the 24th, 2023. So this is the situation as of today. So if you already have NHR, you'll be grandfathered in. If you do not, you have up until the end of the year to move to Portugal. And that's an important point. It's not just going on the website and getting a NIF. You have to physically become tax resident by the end of the year.
You have to become tax residents, yes. Go ahead. No, post the question, because...
Right. So, and to be clear, because again, like you have been listening to different discussions in different quarters from people who may or may not be qualified to make comments. So I just want to be clear that you have to make meaningful steps. So you can qualify in the tax residence, for those who are not fully aware, by the days test. But by now, if you're not here, you're probably too late to make that. So it'll be probably the center of vital interest or the center of life test. So you need to make certain meaningful steps, which can be interpreted by the tax office to show that you have moved here with the intent to remain, to make Portugal the center of your life. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, I think we can discuss a little bit this. We have two main residency criteria, as many countries do. First is obviously the time spent in Portugal, 183 days. If you haven't started that count by now, you won't be able to make that test. But there is a second, let's say, main criteria, which is to have an habitual abode, to have a house available to you in Portugal. House available does not need to be your property. You may rent it, but it has to be a house available to you that you can use currently, that you intend to use currently as your habitual abode. There is an intention element there that should be assessed by external evidence. So in non-pathological situations, the way to show that you intend to use a house in Portugal as your habitual abode is simply to declare that before the tax authorities. Going to a tax office or doing remotely through the tax authorities website, say, I have this house here, here is the lease or the public deed of acquisition. It is a lease of 1 year, it is duly registered, and I want to set my address here, and that's it. And so two nuances. First, we do need, you're saying you need to be physically here in Portugal. I think your understanding of the requirement is accurate, because what the law says is that 193 days, but even if you stay for less time, but there is also an element of presence in Portugal. So there should be a presence here. You will still be considered resident if you have that house available to you that you intend to use as the habitual abode. So presence and change your tax residency. It doesn't, you need more than an if. It's completely accurate, because we have two sorts of NIFs, if you want. A non-resident NIF that you use to purchase a house, to lease an apartment, to buy a car. And then we have to change tax residency. And that is what is required until the end of the year. The application for the NHR can, in my opinion, be done until March 2024, provided that you have changed residencies until the end of the year. Now, you've mentioned center of vital interests. That's obviously remits us to an international tax law concept and to the tiebreaker. My understanding is that the NHR is a domestic regime. So in order to qualify, you have to meet the domestic requirements, and the domestic requirements will still apply even if you don't survive the center of vital interests test. So if you're considered a resident in Portugal, but also in another country, I would say that you still meet the residency requirement here, and you're entitled to the NHR. And here is something that we need to think carefully for the future, because as long as you are granted the regime, you change residency, you're granted the regime, you can leave the country. And if you change your tax residency from Portugal to another country, you will still be eligible for the regime when you come back. So you have it for 10 years. So if you qualify and then you leave Portugal, you will still have the regime for the next 9 years. So this is something that we can think about for the future. What I'm expecting is a lot of dual residency issues, because people, because there is no time to plan. There are countries that do not taxable here. We do. So you'll be residents as of the moment you arrive. And so if you arrive now, from October to the end of the year. And if you don't, if you come from a country where there's no split, at least until the end of the year, I'm expecting a lot of dual residency issues.
Right. And forgive me, I just want to drill a bit more into that second concept, the center of habitual abode, center of life test. So is it that the Portugal law says tax residence is triggered in one of two ways, a day's test or place of habitual abode, or is the place of habitual abode a way of evidencing center of life? Or is it only, so for example, I'll give you a scenario. Someone is rushing. They haven't found a place as yet. So they have been to check into a 5-star hotel with their family. Yeah, they check into a 5-star hotel with their family until they find a place they like. And the international schools, they take kids all the time. So they're here with their family. So their center of life is here. They send their kids to school. Their kids are going to school here. They just don't have a place of habitual abode because they're looking around and they don't want to be forced to rush into a deal they don't like. So in a scenario like that, they don't have a place of habitual abode, but it is their center of life. What happens?
Well, in my opinion, what the law says, I will try to translate it as literally as I can. What the law says is habitual residence.
Okay.
Habitual residence. So I don't think the habitual residence is the same concept as a center of vital interest, because within the center, I'm just going to describe my reasoning.
Sure.
Habitual residence is a place where you usually use as like the headquarters of your life. You come and go. If you're a pilot, you leave for the airplane. Even if you stay for less than 183 days in Portugal because you're traveling, there is a place where you come back. This is your habitual residence. Center of vital interest, I think it can be, there are other elements to consider aside from the place where you want to set your residency. For instance, if your family is away, I think that will most likely attract your center of vital interest to another country, or if your employer is in another country. So I wouldn't necessarily overlap the two concepts. Going back to your very difficult question, I can answer that with in practical terms, and then we can next maybe elaborate on that from a theoretical standpoint. But from a practical term, I will find very difficult for the tax authorities to register you as residents with invoices from a hotel. Sometimes even when you have Airbnbs, and you say, well, I have booked this Airbnb for an entire year, so there is a clear evidence that I want to stay for a longer period. From a practical standpoint, and I'm not saying every tax office will refuse it, but I would say that it is not going to be accepted as a rule. So it's the hotel. It's even, I think, clear that it will create practical hurdles in changing tax residency. But again, because habitual residence, you won't set your habitual residence. The place where you live is typically not in a hotel. I'm very careful with the words because there are cases of soccer players here that actually live in hotels. So I'm not saying that there are no exceptions and that we cannot just show evidence that this is the case. I would say in the case of the soccer players, it could be, I think we could be able to explain that because it was like public knowledge that they were living in hotels. But from a normal, I would try to avoid that if possible. But if possible is not possible, if you cannot get a lease or if you cannot get a house, which sometimes happens, then we just have to try and see how it goes. I had clients that wanted a place in a certain city. There was no place available for them. So they had to stay in Airbnbs. They absolutely 100% wanted to stay in Portugal, but they just didn't have the place available for them. So until the end of the year, I think we'll have to be creative. But if we can do it in a more standard way, which is either you buy a house, obviously, or you lease a lease with a length of over 1 year to demonstrate an intent to stay for a longer period, that lease should be registered with the Portuguese tax authorities. This is a formality, but lease agreements must be registered and stamp tax must be paid over that lease. Then you'll be able to register.
I appreciate you being so thorough. Deeply appreciate it.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.